when you are awake, you use a certain amount of capacity for your body's energy. And then when you sleep, it is recharged. So we got to look at this and understanding meditation and how the body energy works, because this is, very important to really getting into meditation. So let's look at it like this. So let's say when you are born with a body charge, a body battery, let's just say, of about 300 years. So if you are able to hold on to the power that you have at birth, let's just say, then you can live to about 300 years. And I'm going by 300 years because the oldest person recorded as living lived to be 256 years old. So, rounded up to 300, I'll say. So let's say you born with this body battery of 300 years, right? And with the right knowledge and with the right teaching from birth, you are able to sustain this same battery, up to 300 years of life, before you die. So now the average person comes into this knowledge that we're speaking about now, into understanding, by the time we do that, by the time we come into this knowledge, the average person, the body battery goes from about 300 years down to about 120 years. So you got about 120 years of body battery. And if you, at that point in life, go on to, meditate and eat right, exercise, live right and everything like that, live stress free, then you could have about 120 years of this battery life, if you don't gain any more power and get the knowledge to sustain yourself further. Let me put it this way. So now 120 years, let's just look at it like this. Now, let's say you meditating, you're doing everything right. And during a typical day, you go out with 120 years. Beginning of the day, as soon as you wake up, you got 120 years. Now, by the end of the day, let's say you lose 3 years of body battery energy. It's just gone 3 years. So you're down to 117 years of life to go. So when you go to sleep, because you are in such good shape, your body is able to recharge you from 117 back up to 120. So you get a full recharge back to 120. And you will repeat this cycle. As long as you stay in good shape, you eat right, you meditate and everything like that, you will repeat this cycle for 365 days. So for a year. So after 365 days, when a year passes, you lose 1 year of the 120. So the next year you begin at 119, so on and so forth, all the way until you deplete, your time, unless you gain the knowledge to sustain yourself further. So, the average person usually comes into this knowledge around, if you come into this knowledge in your 20s, 30s, or 40s, instead of 120 years, you got about, 80, 90 years, 70, 80, 90 years to go. So this is where, the average body battery is at. And then you have some people who come into this knowledge, much later, and they can't really do what they need to do to get their body to the correct point to recharge. It's too much damage already. And by the time the damage is repaired, that takes about 30 years to do. So, it's really important that you come into this knowledge as soon as possible, which is why, in Tibet, they train the monks. The kids start training as monks very young. We've seen all the video of that. They train them young and get them into meditation young and eating right and understanding really young. So then they live, a very long time. It's a really, smooth, carefree life. We're going to get into that later on in the video. Me doing my travels and talking to people and, being able to go to Tibet and talk to monks there, going to Thailand and stuff like that. I got a lot of education. There is a connection with sex and religion, if you haven't figured that out yet. A huge connection, which we'll get into a little bit here. And you'll understand why some things are the way that it is and why, I don't care what yoga or meditation class you step into, they are not going to teach you this. So you're not going to get that mental understanding of how meditation is working. Now, there is a nerve that basically connects to the brain, but it's not connected directly to the brain. So that nerve is the dorsal nerve. The dorsal nerve is attached to the deep parietal nerve, which eventually attaches to the sacral nerve, which is attached to the lower base of the spine, you know, that part that looks like a tail. So what happens is when you have sexual thoughts, the brain basically sends an electrical signal down the spine, and it reaches these nerves, and it eventually causes, you know, arousal, or, you know, for you to become, you know, stimulated. And it's basically the same with women, except for women have different nerves. Like, women have the pudendal nerve, they have the vagus nerve, they have the pelvic nerve. So these nerves is stimulated again from the brain, sending an electrical signal down the spine, and it causes stimulation in a woman to get aroused. Now, with women, it's different because women, they have way better orgasms than men because they release way more hormones than we do. And they release more powerful doses of dopamine and such. But you need to understand how this mental stimulation is occurring and causing power. This electrical signal I'm talking about is, you know, this ain't no normal shit. That's power that is sending down the spine and causing this stimulation. So now, one of the major reasons why we got into all this sexual stuff is because it's really important. Because every time you have sex, every time you are stimulated or aroused sexually, you are tapping into a part of the brain that is very close to the third eye, very close to the pineal gland. So let's get into this because this is really deep stuff that I got to break down so we can understand. Now, in the Metu series, we got into the hippocampus. Now, the hippocampus is basically located in the temporal lobe, and it is responsible for your spatial position. Remember, I talked about how it's responsible for, you know, you walking and, you know, walking straight on this planet, and it is affected by, you know, liquor and everything like that. But, you know, hippocampus is basically Greek for it translates into horse, sea monster. That's basically what it translates into. And when you break it down into English, you get seahorse, you know, because a horse sea monster is a seahorse. And they call it a seahorse because it is shaped like a seahorse. The hippocampus, when you take a look at it, as you can see, is basically shaped like a seahorse. Now, when you have these thoughts, when you have this stimulation that occurs, the conscious mind basically influences the energy in your body to reach the hippocampus. And when it reaches the hippocampus, this stimulation, this energy travels down the hippocampus, down something that is basically called the choroid plexus. The choroid plexus is these little fibers, these little hairs that travel down the hippocampus, and they reach into the hypothalamus, and that's basically into the deeper lower part of the brain that is near the pineal gland and everything. Now, we all heard that term. People use it a lot. That says, you know, think with the big head, not the little head, implying that, you know, the penis has a brain and it thinks on its own. Now, you're going to understand why a lot of people say that. Now, the choroid plexus, those little fibers that I was talking about that travels down the hippocampus, it travels down the hippocampus and it reaches the fornix. Now, the fornix is basically next to the choroid plexus, and next to that, we have the pineal gland. So we're talking about all this stuff is occurring very close to the pineal gland. Your fornix is what's it basically sends the electrical signal down your spine to reach your, you know, your genitals, your pelvic area, what have you, all those nerves that we talked about earlier. So this is where the sexual stimulation comes from, the fornix. And yeah, of course, this is where they get the word fornication or, you know, porn eventually and everything like that, because it has to do with sexual stimulation. Also, because women also have a fornix in the top end of their vagina. So this is another reason why they use that word fornix. It all comes from the brain. So that little head that it's talking about, this is where that brain really is, it's, you know, in the big brain. So we have all this energy taking place. And, you know, if you read Genesis 32:30, it says, and Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, For I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Now, we know that God is basically the black woman. The pineal gland is also considered God, or the power of God, or the third eye. And then we have sex. So what you have to understand is, in Latin, the word for fornix translates into vault or arch. What is Rome famous for? The Roman arches, the vaulted ceilings. So what does this have to do with sex? Well, in ancient Rome, the prostitutes was basically forced to only be able to solicit people underneath the Roman arches that was located near the entrance of the cities. So basically, prostitutes can only pick up customers underneath the archways. And again, this is all of a sexual nature. Women have a fornix, the top end of the vagina, and fornix dealing with fornication and the energy where the sexual arousement is coming from. The energy is coming from the brain, that part of the brain. So when you look at all these things, it all deals with sex. It all has a sexual nature. And for anybody who is in the know, you already understand that Roman Catholicism is basically all about sex. It's about sexual positions. It has it's heavily associated with Mary and not so much Jesus. This is why we see here Jesus putting the crown of thorns on Mary, and Mary having the hose in her hand instead of Jesus, because the woman is really, the real God, and Catholicism is really about her and not about Jesus really too much. It's just, it's what it is. It's what's hidden in there. The end of the That's Game, the Bible and Christianity Finally Explained video, when I got into the women and I was talking about how the Bible is really talking about her. That's in the King James Version. But when you get into the Catholic Bible, it's really getting into the power of the woman and, all the stuff that deals with the woman and her power. See, the Romans understood the power in sex, what that entails. What is it exactly that we are trying to do with meditation? What do we want to do? What do we want to accomplish? What exactly is it? And the purpose, the point that we want to achieve is mind, body, energy, or mind, body, spirit, mind, body, soul, however you want to put it. So, what is that exactly? What is that? Mind, body, spirit, what is that? And, mind, we can really understand, our mind. Body is the one that confuses people the most. Spirit, we understand, our energy, our soul, or what have you. But of the three, really, the body of the three is the most important, because it's the one that we in this physical plane is going to be controlling the most. It's the one that we have the most control over, but also it's the body that we're going to use to help develop the rest. And that's the point, again, of us being in this flesh to do exactly that. So when you understand, the body, most people, when you hear the body, you think about, the entire body. And that's not necessarily true of what you need to be focusing on. It's really the heart. Plain and simple, the heart. And this is what they mean when they say the body. It's the heart. Now, of course, if we don't take care of the body, then the heart will, it won't function correctly. You won't get the kind of energy you need for your heart if your body is not taken care of. So you can also look at it in that aspect that it's a total package, to where, your body has to be right, but really your body needs to be right so that your heart can be right. That is the key, is your heart. And of course, most people think that the mind is more important than the heart. Most people will say, well, your brain, you need your brain. It's all about the brain, the mind, the mind, the mind. But a lot of people don't understand that your heart sends more neurological signals to your brain than your brain sends to your heart. Plain and simple. Every time your heart beats, it creates a magnetic field that can be measured by magnetometers. And I talked about this before in the human energy on YouTube. So you have so many neurological signals coming from the heart to the brain. And we're going to get into this more in this video, that it's very serious how much control and impact your heart has. And it's going to be sort of a theme in this DVD. We're going to really get into the heart because of everything. I have no idea how important this is, and how, you know, when we take a look at a lot of things about how we are being attacked daily, and how really everything is more focused on the heart than the mind. And when you understand that your heart is sending more neurological signals to the brain, you can see how, you know, this is possible and why it's possible that they want to attack the heart more than the mind. So now, as I said, every time your heart beats, it generates a electrical magnetic field that communicates with every single cell in your body. Our hearts are connected to the Earth's electromagnetic field. The only thing is, it's about synchronicity, which we'll get into. Now, when you pay attention, you understand all living things, just about every single living organism, mammals, almost every animal that we see has a connection to the Earth's electromagnetic field. They use it. And we understand that the importance of, you know, the heart, when you think about what we can possibly use the Earth's electromagnetic field for. We understand how animals use it. They get around and use it to navigate. But we are so out of sync with the magnetic field that we do not use it. We are basically going off of instincts. We are flying blind. If we needed to use it to get around the planet, we would be lost. Animals are still in tune with it. So now, when you understand that, you know, they are attacking our heart, as I said, this is why the #1 cause of death in the world is heart disease. Everybody goes into cardiac arrest and you die and your heart stops, that's game over. Plain and simple, no coming back from that. So the #1 killer of people on this planet is heart disease. Understand that. And that is by design, because they want to attack the heart, and they are constantly attacking the heart daily. Everything is about attacking the heart, which we know has a strong connection to the brain. So when you attack the heart, you attack both the mind and the heart, the body, everything. So when you go back and you pay attention to the ancient Egyptians and how they said the heart was the key to the afterlife.